Welcome back to Pybytes YouTube, and today I wanted to discuss or show some important help functions in Python, including looking at the source code, because the more you work with Python or getting into software development overall, the more you will be reading source code. So having easy and fast access to the standard library or modules is kind of crucial and will save you a lot of time. So with the code on the screen, which is from byte number 143 yesterday, I was a bit stumped because the official solution, which I wrote way back and I of course forgot about, used ChainMap, but it was grouping or chaining group 3 to 1 in descending order, where my solution, I was doing a dictionary merge, which you can see here, which is a really elegant syntax. I think there's even a newer syntax now with 3.10. But yeah, Thomas ended up being overwritten, so his value was 46. So when we merged 1 and 2, it got 64. Merging yet another dictionary where Thomas is a part of again, the value gets overwritten. And what's different about ChainMap is that it doesn't overwrite the value. So the official solution was to do it the other way around. And a quick detour, although the purpose of the video is not ChainMap, but yeah, a really cool example of this is PyBytes tip 44, where we chain different arguments, so to say. So we have first the CLI arguments, then the OINS environment, and then a defaults dictionary. And if the CLI args and the environment don't have a specific key, then the color in this case just falls through to defaults, right? Then we set something in the environment. ChainMap again evaluates these 3 dictionaries in order, then finds this one first, and that takes precedence. And lastly, we give it a CLI argument, and then again it stops at the first match. So color becomes green, which is the command line argument. Again, not the purpose of the help functions of this video, but as we're talking about ChainMap, this is a classic example. I think it's mostly adapted from the documentation, and it might be useful to know about. And as usual in Python, the documentation is this awesome, and ChainMap is explained here. So it's actually building up a single updatable view, and the underlying maps are stored in a list where lookups search the underlying mappings successively until a key is found. So that's kind of the reasoning behind it. So yeah, although we found the answer in the documentation in this case, which is great, I will also show now some simple built-ins we can use to get more answers, and including quick ways to get to the source code. So in that context, if you want to look at ChainMap, how that works, I'm in my REPL, so I have the module already imported, and I can do. So first, like the 2 main help functions or built-ins I use is, one is dir, that lists all the attributes and methods of an object, and the other one is help. And actually, if I'm not in the REPL, I can also use pydoc collections, and I can search this, right? And that's because pydoc is mapped to Python 2, so let's use Python 3 at least, and here it is actually part of it. And here's the corresponding docstring. Now something really cool you can also do is use IPython, which we already see has great memory between sessions. And here it's as simple as using a single question mark to look at the docstring, and look at this, the kicker, get the source code with double question mark. So here's the actual source code. So yeah, we can look at the source code with double question mark, and what we can also do is pip install pybites-pysource, a little package I wrote that can actually, if you want to programmatically look at the source code, and that dumps it to the terminal. I think I have a -p for pager, then we get a pager, can like more, right, in Unix. But I can also pipe this into Vim and then have my full Vim feature set available, so I can do search. So that's kind of cool. And here you can see the project page. So it's under pybytes open source, pysource, but you would pip install it as pybites-pysource because there was already a pysource package on PyPI. You can also do this with python -m inspect. Inspect has an entry point, but for ChainMap, for some reason, I couldn't get that to work. Or would that be that the -d? No, I'm not sure, but usually this works. So if I do strings, okay, there's something going on. But anyway, the inspect module also has that entry point that kind of does the same thing as pysource. But in this case, pysource just worked. So that's 2 ways, IPython and pybites-pysource, to quickly get to the source code. You can use dir or help, use those all the time in the REPL or in the PDB, in the debugger. Or when you're in IPython, which is kind of the same if you're in a Jupyter notebook, you can use single question mark to read the doc string and double question mark to get the pysource. So just a few tools to quickly get more information about your Python objects. Hope this is helpful. See you in the next video.